The lateral branch of the right phrenic gives off a few vessels to the inferior vena cava, and the left one some branches to the esophagus. Each vessel gives off superior suprarenal branches to the suprarenal gland of its own side. The spleen and the liver also receive a few twigs from the left and the right vessels respectively. The lumbar arteries, AA lumbalis, are in series with the intercostals. They are usually 4 in number on either side and arise from the back of the aorta, opposite the bodies of the upper 4 lumbar vertebrae. A fifth pair, small in size, is occasionally present when they arise from the middle sacral artery. They run lateralward and backward on the bodies of the lumbar vertebrae, behind the sympathetic trunk, to the intervals between the adjacent transverse processes, and are then continued into the abdominal wall. The arteries of the right side pass behind the inferior vena cava, and the upper 2 on each side run behind the corresponding crust of the diaphragm. The arteries of both sides pass beneath the tendinous arches, which give origin to the psoas major, and are then continued behind this muscle and the lumbar plexus. They now cross the quadratus lumborum, the upper 3 arteries running behind, the last usually in front of the muscle. At the lateral border of the quadratus lumborum, they pierce the posterior aponeurosis of the transversus abdominis and are carried forward between this muscle and the obliquus internus. They anastomose with the lower intercostal, the subcostal, the iliolumbar, the deep iliac circumflex, and the inferior epigastric arteries. Branches. In the interval between the adjacent transverse processes, each lumbar artery gives off a posterior ramus, which is continued backward between the transverse processes and is distributed to the muscles and skin of the back. It finishes a spinal branch which enters the vertebral canal and is distributed in a manner similar to the spinal branches of the posterior rami of the intercostal arteries. Muscular branches are supported from each lumbar artery and from its posterior ramus to the neighbouring muscles. The middle sacral artery, A sacralis media, is a small vessel which arises from the back of the aorta, a little above its bifurcation. It descends in the middle line in front of the 4th and 5th lumbar vertebrae, the sacrum and coccyx, and ends in the glomus coccygeum, coccygeal gland. From it, minute branches are said to pass to the posterior surface of the rectum. On the last lumbar vertebrae, it anastomoses with the lumbar branch of the iliolumbar artery. In front of the sacrum, it anastomoses with the lateral sacral arteries and sends offshoots into the anterior sacral foramina. It is crossed by the left common iliac vein and is accompanied by a pair of venae committantes. These unite to form a single vessel which opens into the left common iliac vein. End of section 25. Recording by Marianne Coleman Hipkins. www.thisvoiceforyou.com